I know what my audience like. I did some independent films with Master P. A lot of those movies did really well.
I'm ambitious. I'm a hustler. I have my own lane.
That's the thing about comedy. You wake up every day, you don't know if you're funny that day.
All right, so let's get to it. Hey, so everybody, this is my man, Mr. Moore. I call you Mr. Moore for right now. It's Mr. Moore. Well, I guess your name is on there, so Chuck. I can't even see that.
It's all good. I mean, I ain't trying to hide from nobody.
Yeah. All right, so we had a conversation recently, man, and I was like, man, you got to come on and shoot that GIF and talk that talk. Football fan, all levels, coach, and parent of a top recruit.
Mm-hmm.
And so the conversation that we were having at the time, for all those that are paying attention and tuning in right now, we were talking about this trend of, you know, superstar high school athletes and being recruited by Power Fives, and then, you know, making the transition to HBCUs. So then with the COVID era, we saw a lot of adjustments being made. We've seen a lot of these kids that are sophomores, juniors, seniors, like really being put in a situation where there's a whole year of football that they won't be able to play.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens, you know, after that? And so very recently, we see a high profile ex-NFL legend, you know, become the head coach of an HBCU.
That's the wave right there.
Man, further to the wave and making this like a real legitimate thing. And then even also connected to that, we still have a large amount of people that are still disinterested in pro football because of the boycott. And you and I got a chance to flush all that out, and you made some dynamite points. And so that's why I wanted to bring you on so we could kind of you know, touch on some of that. So let's back it up and let's start with the NFL and the boycott, blackout, whatever you want to call it. Now in its fourth season, I haven't really been paying attention to football for those 4 seasons for whatever, a number of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And this season, you ultimate Cowboy fan,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of broke it down to me why it is that you're watching and the reasons why you would support it. And that's where I want to start.
Yeah, well, I mean, really the reason why, first of all, I love football, right? And football has been ingrained in me since a little kid. I've been a Cowboy fan forever. And my point at the beginning of the boycott, which is really what's happening now, is I felt like the players always had the power to make the change, and they were just late to the party, right? If you look at what's happening over in the NBA, you know, between LeBron, Coach Pop, right? It's a very progressive league, and the players are outspoken and they understand their power. And I always felt like, even now, right, the fact that so many players are being injured in the NFL, and the fact they're not even asking Colin Kaepernick, they're not even bringing him in for a workout right now. If the players just came together and said, nah, that's not happening, we're not practicing until you at least give him a shot. And so my point of view has always been the players not understanding the power that they had. And if they stood up and said, hey, look, we're not going to take this anymore, we're going to make changes would happen. And you can see that by just the small steps that the NFL has taken already. And they might be symbolic and might not really mean anything. But, I mean, what a difference a year makes, right? At least Goodell is at least acknowledging systemic racism. They're having these social messages being displayed all over the field, which, like I said, once again, we all know that symbolic really doesn't mean anything. But my point is the players need to recognize the power that they have. And they have that power. Whereas, you know, our next topic, we're talking about college and high school level, they really don't have the power. So, you know, to me, the dynamic is a little bit different there. But the NFL, truly, to me, the players have the power. And once they realize that and embrace that power, they can make changes and they can force these owners to make changes. I mean, you look at some of the steps that the owners have been forced to take where they're opening up the stadiums as voting booths, right? They're kind of copying the NBA.
Right.
So the NFL players do have the power to make these things happen, to push these people, because they're not going to do it on their own. So that's kind of where I'm at with the NFL. Now, I'm not, you know, I'm a Cowboy fan, but I must say, you know, Jerry Jones, that brother, man, it's you know, I watch because it's more so a habit.
Yeah.
And it's more so supporting the players and liking the players like Dak and you know, Ezekiel Elliott to a lesser extent. But the new rookie CD Lamb for Oklahoma, right? Being excited about the players, but it's really hard when you have the owner and Jerry Jones, which pretty publicly is not
Yeah,
supporting what's going on right
right.
now.
When you talk about bad owners, he's like one of the worst.
Yeah. So it's funny because normally I have Amar, but unfortunately because high school season is canceled and my kids aren't in sports, and with COVID and the lack of sports going on, I find myself definitely watching football in general, just sports in general, just because I'm so excited,
Right.
to see sports again. So that's kind of where I'm at right now with it.
Yeah, but you made a good point about that the moves that they're making are symbolic.
Hmm.
That doesn't come off as pandering to you.
It doesn't, but I also understand it has to start somewhere, right? It takes a while to get the ball rolling, and you gotta see progress, even if it's small progress. I mean, just the fact that they're acknowledging now, like, okay, they're supporting players that actually kneel for the flag. Now, once again, it's symbolic. I'm more interested in their actions at this point. I'm
Right.
more interested in the money. What organizations are they supporting? What players are they supporting? I'm waiting to hear that feedback from the players in terms of is the NFL doing things behind closed doors to put action to their words, and that's what we kind of waiting on. That's why I like the Jay-Z move. I know a lot of people didn't, but I always felt Jay always understood the culture to me and always was going to push for the culture, and to me to think that he wasn't going to do that behind closed doors was ridiculous. Now, I mean, he's not powerful enough to get Kaepernick a workout, but like I said,
You don't think so?
nah, not in that realm.
I think he is, but didn't because that wasn't on his agenda.
I felt like he made the calculated decision that, okay, are we going to make some progress without Kaepernick, or are we going to include Kaepernick and possibly make no progress?
Mm,
And being you think about Jay, right? The type
yeah,
of person he is, he like to play both sides of the fence. He
yeah.
loves to be in that corporate room, right? But he like to be in Brooklyn too. So that's him just kind of playing both sides. Was he going to just piss away all of the positive that can come from that partnership to say, okay, let's get Kaepernick a job? When at the time, Kaepernick was acting like he was good with the NFL at the time.
I think a lot of people were speaking for him and saying that. I don't.
Well, okay, so let me kind of address the elephant in the room, and from my perspective, right? I don't. Although I back Kaepernick 1,000%, I don't think that he maximized his position either, because to me, Kaepernick kind of went dark. He goes dark, right? He when his name is brought up by the NFL, right? Everybody's talking about Kaepernick. But when he kind of fades to the, not him himself, but his name kind of fades to the background, you don't hear from Kaepernick. You don't hear when there are police shootings. You don't hear him on social media kind of bringing attention to the cases that people don't know about, right? And so I feel like he could be more vocal with what he's doing as well to keep constant focus on the actual issue.
And I forgot about that. That was the other thing that we were, we was going back and forth about because you was like, you never agreed with the way he moved anyway in the first place. And I was saying how in the beginning he raised like $1 million before people were really raising money. So, do you want to see and hear Jay-Z, or really not see the unseen hand really affecting change and moving behind the scenes? Because raising money ain't easy.
Right.
And activism has different levels.
Right.
He don't have to be the leader of the march, but he can be the one who like, yo, I did this, and you can do this. This can happen. Blah blah blah. I don't say that I don't think that I expected him to be that tweeter after a shooting. I don't expect that from him.
But if he did,
what if he did?
I'm talking about cases we don't hear about in the media, right? I'm not talking about the ones we hear about. I'm talking about because what he talked about was, look, this happening every day,
Right.
which it is.
Right.
And so, and I'm not knocking him because, like you said, it's different levels, and he chose to do the route. I'm just saying I thought he could have been more impactful if he would have kept the focus on, okay, well, let's highlight these cases that we don't know about, because
Right.
I follow him on Instagram, I follow him on Twitter, And me personally, people not gonna like this, but I feel like the only time he tweets is when he's talking about one of his products that's releasing.
Oh, don't do that to
It's wrong. It's wrong. I know it's wrong. The people, look,
But
comments gonna go
who doesn't?
crazy.
But who
Huh?
doesn't though? Who doesn't?
I'm just saying, if you're gonna be about that life, if that's what you claiming,
But he got to make
then
money. He got to make
no.
money.
Yo, Kaepernick was always making money. Don't get it twisted.
All right, he has money, but you still, what rich person don't still want to make more money? You still got to.
I'm not knocking him for anything with Nike. I'm not knocking him on any of that stuff. I'm just saying, don't let the only time I hear from you is when a shoe's coming out or when your all black jersey's coming out, and then you talk about the proceeds. Now I followed him when he released his shoe. And I remember he said, he released the shoe, but then said on the back end, I'm going to give you guys an update 2 weeks from now in terms of where the proceeds go.
Okay.
2 weeks later,
Nothing.
now, in fairness to him, about 2 or 3 months ago, he did announce where everything is going. So I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I think he could have did a better job of really driving the narrative and putting the spotlight where it needed to be. That's my point.
All right. Cool. Fair enough. All right, let's go to college. We're
right.
talking about, Power Five. And I just learned what the term was recently. Now, when you learn
Me
something
too.
or you see a colored car and you're like, now you see it everywhere. Now that's all people talk about. So explain to us what is Power Five in relation to college football or
So
college
Power
football?
Five is the top five conferences. Just you have the ACC, if I can remember all of them, ACC, Pac-10, Big 12, Big 10, and SEC.
Okay.
So that's the Power Five. Those are like your major powerhouse schools that really look at it this way. They're really the only ones that can play in a national championship game. It will be, it probably will never, no time in the future, as long as the system is set up the way it is, where you'll have a lesser school play in the national championship. The Power Five is pretty much the national championship is going to be amongst those teams.
Wow. No, I was just looking at somebody on Twitch. I need to be able to monitor Twitch a little better. All right. So you got a Power Five. We also talked about in this conversation about, paying collegiate athletes.
Yep.
And your thoughts about that. Yay or nay? Do you think that scholarship and the ability to come to this big, pretty school with a big weight room and all food and meals, do you think that's enough? And anybody that says otherwise should keep their mouth shut?
No, not when it comes to Power Five. Power Five, they making so much money off these kids. My thing is, right, so for those that don't know, right, so a lot of people assume that college athletes, Power Five college athletes get nothing. That's not true. They get a stipend, right?
Yeah,
they get a
I
stipend.
didn't know that until you told me.
Right. So
Yeah.
stipend between probably depends on how big the school, between $1,000 and probably $2,000 a month. Right.
Let's slow down. Let's dig into that. $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
As a stipend.
Mm-hmm.
Your books are already,
they can't work. They can't work.
Can't work.
Right, remember that, right?
Your books are already.
Mm-hmm.
Your meals, lodging.
Mm-hmm.
$2,000 a month. There are some, middle-aged people that, that don't pull that down a month.
Right.
What is that stipend supposedly going to?
So any incidentals, cell phone bill, any type of bills you have, just pretty much to say, here's something for you so you don't feel like you're completely broke.
Got it. Okay.
Now, the amount varies based on the school, and now this is all legit. Like none of this is, obviously illegal or anything. This is all legit. So a lot of people don't know that. So when I say the players should get paid, I don't mean they should literally get paid. I think they should be able to profit off of their likeness. I think that's the biggest thing, because that way, right? Because I get that point where every player, every school, right? They're not getting a huge TV money. It's really the Power Five.
Yeah.
So if you got kids that are on TV every week and a lot of the country knows them, or in the South, they got a whole state that follows them and their kids follow them, and you selling their jersey at every Walmart, then they should get a percentage of that cut with their name on the back.
Right.
Like that's where I think they should open it, which they actually are starting to open that door.
Well, the issue has always been argued, and I always thought it was a fake issue, an issue of fairness, saying that, these kids, these top recruits, it's not fair because the top recruits go to these big schools and they're in a position to be paid, but the average kid going to an average school won't.
Right.
And I mean, I guess on some hand, it's the luck of the draw. It's survival of the
Hey,
fittest. I mean,
hey, it's still America.
yeah, it happens in the job world. But to that point, Power Five being able to pay these stipends, but now you're seeing, all right, so we talk college, and now we step down and go into high school. We're seeing the current wave of, because of the climate, even though the movement, if you will, started about a couple years ago. It just got traction this year because of the civil rights unrest and climate, where a lot of these youngsters, Generation Zers, top recruits, have smartened up and realized, like you said, that the power is in the player.
Mhm.
And you got some old vets who in the ear and like, hey man, go to the black school, build that up. You got a following, you on social media, you heavy.
Mhm.
Take that same energy and go to the black school. And now we're seeing it. Do you think those schools will be able to compete, even though they have the top recruit, but from a financial standpoint, like?
No, they can't compete financially.
Ah.
That's just there. They can't do that. So to me, where HBCU can compete, and this was, me and you, we had these conversations because for those that don't know, my son is heavily recruited. So I've kind of experienced this firsthand. He was a sophomore. He's a junior now. He just started school, but he started getting his offers his sophomore year. So you know, my whole thought process was last year when he was making a name for himself, his first year of varsity, he led the county in sacks. Um, I felt like they should have kind of been in his ear then, because to me, if HBCUs are going to have a chance, and not saying they do, because they do have a chance with my son,
Right.
but I think for them to have a chance with these top tier athletes, they have to establish the relationship with them early.
Mhm.
Because if they don't, you could like put yourself in these kids' position, right? Think about yourself. You are doing something that you've done since you were 5 or 6 years old. You've probably been really good since you were 5 or 6 years old. You are now in high school where now, it's different from my era. You got Twitter. Twitter is like a marketing machine when it
Mhm.
comes to high school athletes. So you got your Twitter profile, you got your huddle. You're able to dissect your game film on Sunday night and have it spliced up where you can send out your highlights Sunday evening and your game was Friday night.
Mm.
Right? You can send it to different coaches all over the place. You're trying to market yourself on Twitter, trying to get more people to follow you. Now you start getting a couple of offers or a couple of schools. Even before the offers, you have Georgia, right? Which happened to my son. You got Georgia, you got Tennessee, you got, of course, Maryland, right? You have all these big schools that are actually coming to the school, coaches, defensive coordinators that are visiting him, taking him out of class just to introduce themselves. So
That's
this is
legal.
what's
And this is all legal.
yeah, this is all legal because
Huh.
they can't like before September 1st of your junior year, they can't
Okay.
speak directly with him, but they can talk to the coaches.
Right.
So if they go to the school and they asking the coach about you, then the coach can say, "Hey, look, such and such, can he be excused from class to come meet the coach?" That's cool, right? They just can't have any long, extended conversations. It can be a quick introduction,
Right.
but they like, here's my card. They're following you on Twitter, so now you're looking at your Twitter followers. You have Notre Dame following you, have Penn State following you,
Mm.
right? And this is before your first offer, and then you get the call at your house because they don't call your parents. The parents don't know. They call the student, right? They call the coach first. The coach, they get the number from the coach. Then they call the student. And my son, he just comes downstairs. He's like, "Yeah, I got another offer." That's
Okay.
kind of yeah.
All right.
That's kind. I don't even know. It just like comes out the blue. He's like, "Oh yeah, I just got on the phone with such and such. They just offered me." I'm like, "Oh, that's what's up." So that's kind of the way the process works. So if you're a 15, 6-year-old kid
Yeah.
and you got these big schools that are on TV, they play in front of 100,000 people, right? Everybody at your high school knows about these schools and these big time players, and it's where they aspire to go and where they want to play football because they know that's their best avenue to play in the NFL.
Mm.
And let's be clear, right? If you are being recruited by Power Five schools and you attend the Power Five schools, your chance of getting to the NFL is greater
Yes.
than going to a non-Power Five schools. So as a parent, as players, these are all things you're factoring in. Where I think HBCUs come in is, right, if they get in early and they sell that culture, because that can't happen at a PWI. We
That's
know
right.
that,
That's right.
right? They can sell that culture. They can sell that nurturing environment. and then they can kind of embrace them early on. And then when they start getting those offers, they still remember you because you were the first that showed interest,
Yeah. Right. Right.
right? Now, here's going to be the rebuttal because the first thing everybody is going to say is, "Oh, they." This is where the finances come in. They don't have a budget,
Right.
right? Yeah, okay, they don't have a budget, but at the same time, I mean, we're in the D.C., Maryland, Virginia area. There, I counted 9 HBCUs within a 2-hour radius.
Mm.
So it's nothing to send a coach up the street for the most part. All you gotta do is you can focus on like the top 5 high school programs. And like, we just gonna camp out at their Friday night games.
Right.
And we're gonna develop a relationship with the coaches. We're gonna talk to the kids, let them know we're here, let them know we're thinking about them before they even on the map with those big
Mm.
schools. That's the way to me they get in. Because once that hype machine kicks in, it's hard. It's
Yeah.
real hard
Yeah.
because like I said, you got to put yourself in the position of a 16-year-old, right? This is something you've been doing pretty much your whole life. You got an opportunity. If you getting recruited by a Power Five, you probably do have dreams of going to the NFL. And people are like, oh, well, if you're talented, they'll find you anywhere.
Right.
Yeah, possibly. But if you go to an HBCU, it's like being everywhere else black, right? You got to be twice as good to
Yeah.
get picked in the 7th round. You look at, Shannon Sharp, right? Shannon Sharp, was it Sterling or Shannon that's on with Skip? That
Shannon's
Shannon,
one.
right?
I thought Sterling went to the black school, didn't he? One of them.
No, Shannon. No, Shannon went to Savannah State, I think.
Oh, okay, got it. Yeah.
Right? But he was picked. This dude is a Hall of Famer. He was picked in the 7th round.
Mm.
So imagine if you're not a Hall of Famer, are you getting picked by?
Right.
Now I'm not saying, I'm just not trying to sway anybody, but I'm just saying these are realities
Yeah.
that when you're a parent and when your child is in a situation, things you have to balance. So it's not as easy as, I love HBCUs. My wife and I are graduates of HBCUs. My parents are graduates of my brother's HBCU. I'm down, I ride for HBCUs, but you got to weigh your options when it comes to this if your child is at a certain level of being recruited. And that's not an easy decision. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. Because at some point, I mean, you can look at it I guess the easy out way. Whereas he could. This is the way it used to be. People used to look at it. He'll go to the HBCU and be a super standout because they don't have the same talent.
Right.
He'll go to the Power Five or the big school and ride the pine. That was the thought process back in the day. But I feel like it's more of an equal playing field now. And
no, it's not equal.
Really?
Not football. No, it's not equal. It's not. It's a difference. It's a difference in the competition. And you're going to get dinged for that. Because if you dominate the HBCU, they're going to say, yeah, but I don't know if they can do that against a tackle that's 6'5", 320 and moves like a guard. Like, that's the difference between HBCU and Power 5 is, you talk about all world, like breaking it down, right? So only 2% of high school football players are offered a scholarship. Okay. I think out of that 2%, 1% is D1. Now, D1 includes HBCUs like Howard, Morgan, right? A&T, FAMU. That's considered D1 as well. Now, if you talk about Power 5 only, you probably talk about less than 0.5% of high school football players in the nation that are offered scholarships to these programs. So if you are truly kind of elite of the elite. And so when you're stacking your program with 80 players that were like top 5 in their state and they're not even seeing the field, there's a difference in competition. And later on, that can hurt you down the line when, NFL scouts are looking at you and they're like, yeah, but, he's going against a tackle that's 6'2", 6'3", and, a little slew-footed. How would he go against a tackle that's 6'5", like I say, 300, but moves like Anthony Davis, or LeBron James, right? And that's the kind of the dilemma. Now, I'm gonna tell you where HBCUs can make a gain immediately is in basketball, right? Because basketball, you only 1 of 5. If you're a monster, you can go to an HBCU and ESPN, if you're a top-rated athlete coming out of high school, ESPN gonna follow you to that HBCU
anyway. Yeah, right.
Yeah, they're gonna follow you anyway. So to me, basketball is a totally different. I think basketball can happen lot faster because you're 1 of 5, right? Football, you're a 5-star quarterback. Well, damn, if you ain't got no 5-star receivers, You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? That's a little challenging.
Yeah.
So, but that move that Dion made,
Yeah, that's what I was about to ask you. Last question. What do you think about that? Do you think that celebrity effect will come into play?
I
Was
think
it
that's
Jackson State
really
or
how you
Southern? Jackson
said
State?
Jackson State. Yeah,
Jackson State. All right.
I think that's the move right there. If you got big time athletes coming back to HBCUs and supporting and propping up these HBCUs, that's when you can start the wave in football. Because to me, the wave can happen. I'm not saying it can't. It's just that when you're in the position of you going through it personally, you know, is your do you you know, it's like, okay, my child is going to be, I don't want to say guinea pig, but for lack of a better word,
Right.
well, I'm going to challenge the system. Well, okay, you challenge the system, but at the same time you leaving off the table. I talked about that 1 in 2,000, right? So as a parent, that's money I don't have to give
Yeah.
them.
Right. Right.
Right.
Right. Right.
Right. That eases my pocket.
Right.
Right. You talk about all the benefits. One of the schools we visited, they have 10 academic advisors assigned to the team, right? They have their own dorm. They're in their own little bubble, right? They're damn near coddled.
Mm.
So, when you think about those benefits that your child can have, man, it's not as easy as, okay, we need to all send our kids to HBCUs
Right.
and build up HBCUs. In theory, that's great, but when you're actually going through the process, it's a lot harder decision. But like I said, I say all this to say, like I told my son, he got offered by Howard. That was another school that offered him. And I told him, I was like, look, I don't care what Power 5 school calls you, if you ever say you want to go to an HBCU, I will never try to change your mind on that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
So
don't care what the
yeah.
benefits are.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But in the end, it's, I say the decision is 70% his.
Yeah. Well, that's what's up. Well, I appreciate it, Mr.
No problem,
Moore.
brother. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks for, and we wish y'all the best. And hey, man, we gotta have you back real soon to talk football.
I don't care if it is a closet. You still looking mad official.